Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, the Millennial Investor, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking about Apple. We're going to be talking about Apple and the new microchips that they're coming out with. A lot of other chip makers have really been scared because Apple is starting to come out with some competitive products and running some other big names out of the market. And one of those, for example, is Qualcomm. I remember a few months ago, I ended up selling my shares in Qualcomm out of the rumors that Apple would be coming out with its own chips. And since then, going back to the time they announced that news, which was around right here, around January of this year, the stock has pretty much downtrended ever since. Now, one of my largest holdings, actually my number one holding, as you probably know, is Broadcom. Broadcom currently makes up 9% of my portfolio, and ever since starting the portfolio, it's continued to be my number one position. And I want to go over in this video if Apple is going to be making its own chips, if they're going to be moving more and more dependency towards their own manufacturing and less reliance on a Qualcomm or a Broadcom or a Skyworks Solutions or a Cirrus Logic or whatever, if they're going to be making their own chips, I'm going to be talking in this video how that will affect my investment in Broadcom, because those of you that know, my investment in Broadcom is mostly reliant off their hardware solutions. They're transitioning their business more towards a software company, but we're going to be talking about multiple things in this video, including Qualcomm, talking about the deal that Broadcom struck last year, about a year ago from this time, how they will be extending their deal with Apple and what they'll be looking like moving forward. We're going to be talking about Wi-Fi 6. Wi-Fi 6 is going to be a huge deal for Broadcom, and that has nothing really to do with Apple, but that goes for Broadcom on the hardware and software solution side. We're going to be talking about what Wi-Fi 6 is versus Wi-Fi 5, and then also 5G and how the rollout for this could be huge for Broadcom, and how this will affect my decision moving forward, regardless of whether or not Apple comes out with their own microchips and ends up replacing Broadcom's radio frequency solutions. But before we jump into all of that, guys, my name is Jordan. I'm a millennial investor. If you haven't seen me before, I am invested in lots of dividend growth companies, specifically the 22 that are listed in column A that I'm highlighting right here. And I track my annual and monthly dividend income right here through these two charts right here, and they are updated every single month. And I also track my portfolio value and my monthly YouTube income. If you want to see my 5 investing goals for 2021, they're listed right here, as well as my 2021 stock market prediction. And number 4 out of 5 on these 5 investing goals for 2021, one of them is to hit 150 referrals to M1 Finance. And so far, we've done really good. If you click the Refer and Earn tab here on M1 Finance, you'll see that I've referred 110 people. And that is all thanks to you guys off of YouTube. 110 people have signed up using my link, which is incredible and so much more than I ever could have imagined. But let's try to get that number to 150. We're almost halfway through a year, and I really want to see if we can get that number up to 150 the way that I think we can. So this link is down below in the description, and there's lots of other things as well, including if you want to get started with investing, there's lots of information down below, but more importantly, you can reach out to me directly. There's an email address down below if you want to have a mentoring call with me, or if you want to get signed up with a Yada savings account or a credit card referral or anything like that. There's all that stuff down below. But go ahead and get signed up with M1 Finance, help support the channel, and be number 111 of 111 people that we've signed up so far with the link. But thank you guys for tuning in, and let's go ahead and get started with what we said about Broadcom. It's my number one position. It currently has a value of $1,138.15. Those of you that know me know that I like time-weighted returns better, but this is a money-weighted return. And the return that I've had since investing in it is 56.87% gain, and the total return on dollar amount is $224.35. It currently has a target weighting of 9%, and it currently has a portfolio makeup of 8.6% of my portfolio. And of those gains of $224.35, $204 comes from market gain, and a little over $20 comes from earned dividends. And I currently own a little over 2.5 shares at an average share price of $3.62. Now, those of you that know me and have been longtime viewers of the channel know that I started buying Broadcom heavily in April of 2020, April 3rd actually. And that was when I started the channel. And so I originally started buying this company in the 230s. And since then, the company has doubled. Just the other day, the company was in the 490 range. And so since then, in just a year's time, the company has doubled in share price. In that time, the company has also raised dividends by 10%. They've done share buybacks, they've increased profitability, increased revenues, and now, while the company has had a big roar up, in the last couple of months, going back since basically like March or April of this year, the company is starting to downtrend. And that is mostly because the fear with a lot of these big microchip makers for Apple. You all know Apple, you all love it. It's the biggest company in the world, currently a $2.1 trillion market cap. And Apple has recently announced that they are coming out with a lot of its own microchips. This has already hurt some of the competitors to Broadcom. For example, Intel is a big chip maker. They produce lots of hardware and software solutions in the tech space, and you can see that their stock price in the last year has pretty much went nowhere, and that's because of the announcements that Apple have came out with recently. And another one of my old investments was Qualcomm. And Qualcomm is starting to downtrend, and they're ones who's really going to be affected by this. And actually, if we go back to my main tab here, and we click my activity feed, and we search by symbol, and we search QCOM, and we can find the exact date that I sold it at and the average share price that I sold at. I sold at an average share price of $148. And today, Qualcomm currently sits at an average share price of 130. So the stock has actually went down from where I sold it. So I might have actually dodged a bullet there, because since then the stock has went down and the dividend has pretty much went nowhere as well. It's raised just 2 or 3% in that time. And me as a dividend growth investor, that's obviously very important. So I took my profits and reinvested back in other holdings, including Broadcom. But with Apple announcing this, that they're going to be coming out with their chips, specifically the M2 chips, basically from everything I've seen, the reviews that I've seen behind it, some of the specs behind it, are pretty incredible. I'm going to be honest. The specs behind these chips are absolutely, bar none, just probably going to be the best chips out there. And Apple is just such a financial powerhouse that they can pretty much just beat out any competition just because they have more money than anyone else out there, including Broadcom, Qualcomm, Intel, or really any other company on earth. And so I'm pretty much expecting that long term, it is more than likely that Apple will probably come out with RF chips, radio frequency chips, that will likely run Broadcom out of the market. Now, I'm thinking that will probably take several years out into the future until that happens, but if I'm wrong, I think that it is still going to be a good idea to invest into Broadcom, and I'm going to go over exactly why. If we go back here to January 23rd of 2020, so about a year or so ago, Broadcom strikes a $15 billion deal with Apple to sell its iPhone parts. And I remember this was right before the pandemic struck, just about 2 weeks before, and that was when Broadcom hit its all-time high before that day. And that was because of this awesome news, because it's not just about the money that it made. It is more important to see that Apple is still reliant on Broadcom and still looking at furthering deals for buying more of its radio frequency chips. Now, we'll expect to make about $15 billion off the deal, but if we look here, if we scroll down here to this paragraph, the parts will be used in forthcoming Apple products launching in the next 3.5 years. So this deal is not something that's going to happen in 2020, 2021. It is going to happen for the next 3.5 years. And since this was announced about a year and a half ago, so it should be lasting probably until sometime around the summer-ish time of 2023. So that still has a lot of time left on this deal, and in that time, I don't think that Apple will be able to compete with its RF, its radio frequency chips that Broadcom has, because these things take time to produce and it's not easy to replicate what Broadcom has. Not saying that Apple can't do it eventually, but I don't think that they'll be doing it by 2023. And here's something else that I want to showcase. I'm going to highlight another paragraph, and it's right here. Broadcom said in a December filing that Apple's business comprised of 20% of Broadcom's net revenue in 2019 and 25% in 2018. So 25% of the revenue of Broadcom came strictly from Apple, a fourth of their company in 2018. But then it reduced down to 20% in 2019 to only a fifth. The revenue share for what the amount of money that Broadcom makes from Apple gets smaller and smaller and smaller every year. And I don't know that number yet. They should be coming out with that number very soon. But they'll find out very soon what that number came out with in 2020, and it will be under 20%. And then in 2022, it will be lower than that, and 2023 will be lower than that. By the time we get to summer of 2023, I'm thinking that Broadcom's share of revenue coming from Apple will likely be under 15%. Now, if Broadcom were to lose 15% of its revenue, that's not a good thing. No company wants to lose any of its revenue, especially any form that's in the double digits. But that would only be assuming that Apple were to move completely away from Broadcom, and they would end up losing roughly 15%-ish of their company's revenue. Now, that's not a good thing, but here's why I think that's not going to happen. Like I said, the company is more than likely not going to be able to compete in the short term with the radio frequency chips that Broadcom has to produce. Now, here's why that's not important, and here's why people that are worried about this and why Broadcom is starting to downtrend a little bit, I think is because people are worried about what Apple might do in the future, and here's why it doesn't matter. If Broadcom's revenue from Apple were to go to zero tomorrow, they're going to be perfectly fine. And I'm going to show you exactly why. The main two reasons why this company is going to benefit is because of two things: Wi-Fi 6 and the rollout of 5G. And this is going to be a multi-mega wave that is not going to happen in a 6-month period, a 1-month period. This is a multi-year rollout of these products. Wi-Fi 6 is not going to be in everyone's home by the end of 2021, in the same way that 5G is not going to be in everyone's pocket by the time we get to the end of 2021. And just look, I just pulled up a couple pictures just so you can get a highlight. I want to showcase the differences in these different types of Wi-Fi boxes versus what the old things did versus what they do now. Going back to the old school days, they did 2.4 gigahertz and they just connected to basic things such as laptops. And then now where we are right now, they do home gateways, wireless APs, smartphones, set-top boxes, and smart speakers. And then 6 gigahertz is where it's really going to start to get interesting with augmented reality and virtual reality, AR/VR. 6 gigahertz enabled wireless AP. In-vehicle entertainment. A lot of people see like Teslas already have video games and movies and lots of other things inside of their vehicles, and that is something like a 6 gigahertz is going to be able to take advantage of. High-speed tethering, UHD video streaming. There's lots of things that go along with Wi-Fi 6 that is really going to ramp out, and the hardware solutions that is going to be used in these products are going to be more important than ever. And it's not just the Wi-Fi 6 boxes themselves. It's not just the programming that goes in Wi-Fi 6 that's going to be important. It's all of these devices in this entire ring. The way that Broadcom makes money is not just selling its hardware solutions, its microchips, to the Wi-Fi solutions, right? It's to all these other surrounding devices in this little ring right here. And Wi-Fi 6 is going to be so much faster and so much better than Wi-Fi 5 that I think it's going to almost be a joke. It would kind of be like someone coming out today and bringing out a flip phone and trying to Bluetooth you music, right? Like we did back in like 2004. That was the cool thing back then. The same thing is going to be for Wi-Fi 6. Wi-Fi 5 and everything before it is going to look like a joke once this really starts to get ramped out. And the same thing goes for 5G. That's really what's going to be an advantage here for Broadcom. This shows the differences on how long it takes to download a 2-hour film from 3G, 4G, and 5G. With 3G, it would take 26 hours, over a full day, over a full 24 hours, to download a 2-hour film, to download the new King Kong vs. Godzilla movie, right? And with 4G, it would take 6 minutes. Significantly faster, but you would still have a little bit of a wait time. But with 5G, the time to download a 2-hour film is about 3.5 seconds. From 26 hours to 6 minutes to 3.5 seconds. Significantly faster than anything else before it. And if you look at the landscape of 5G picture that I have pulled up here, this just gives you an idea of how much better 5G is than 4G. Decrease in latency, 10x. Connection density, 10x. Experience throughput, 10x. Spectrum efficiency, 3x. Traffic capacity, 100x. Network efficiency, 100x. Across the board, better and better numbers. And this once again showcases the difference between 3G, 4G, and 5G. Across the board that you can see that these solutions are going to be much, much better. And with Broadcom, it has already focused on divesting its revenues primarily from its radio frequency and semiconductor chips. It has hardware solutions. It has software solutions. It has things such as security software that is sold to consumers, and it's diversified revenue streams from its other previous businesses that it's bought. The M&A activity, the merger and acquisition activity of Broadcom is unparalleled. They are constantly looking for huge multi-billion-dollar deals that can make this company better and better over time. And one thing that I love about this company that it does focus on is dividends. It paid out 50 cents in 2016 every single quarter, and then it got raised to 51, and then doubled to $1.02 in 2016, and then it got raised again to $1.75. That's over a 70% increase, by the way, in case you're wondering. That's a massive uproar. $1.75 up to $2.65 is still another big upturn. $2.65 to $3.25, and then a 10% raise in 2020 up to $3.60, and that is even facing the headwinds Of the supply chain issues that Broadcom faced in 2020, even still amounting to a 10% dividend raise in 2020, and I'll still expect either a high single digit or low double digit raise in 2021 as well as this company continue to doing share buybacks, high single digit revenue growth, high single digit profitability growth, and earnings per share growth. This company is a powerhouse. Acquiring things such as Symantec and its other businesses as well continue to make it one of the best companies to own in my opinion. And that's why I think, in my opinion, that you should not be worried about what Apple's doing and what they're going to be doing with their microchips. I think that in 2023, when this deal comes to an end, I think that they're going to extend their deal with Broadcom and probably spend more than ever on their products. But if I'm wrong, if hypothetically, if Apple said we hate Broadcom, we don't want any more of their business, we're taking them to zero, then Broadcom is more than likely still going to be just fine. I will be an investor in this business likely for several years to come until something changes with the fundamentals of the company to where I don't want to own it. The CEO is great, the business is great, and the numbers behind this company are fantastic. And I'll continue to own it and hold my shares and get paid very handsome in the meantime while I wait and continue to be a shareholder of this company. But thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you watching all the way in. Like I said, $30 for getting signed up down below. That is triple the normal amount, so go ahead and get signed up there. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.